I had a visitor down, guest down the other month, and they were saying about how they were a cat person and they saw me as a dog person. I've never thought of myself as either. I've had pet cats and pet dogs over the years, and some cats are great, especially. But I think there's too many cats. I think it's way too many, and the small birds are suffering and stuff like that. You know, it's, cat shits in people's gardens and everything. So yeah, I like them individual. Anyway, dogs. But dogs, I didn't really like dogs when I was young. I got bitten twice as a child. I can't remember what age I was. I was like 5 or 7 or 9 or something like that, and I got bitten 2 times by dogs, because back then people just used to let their dogs out on the streets and on some of the estates, some of the council's estates. I remember Sugarwells was notorious. There'd be packs of dogs would build up, and of course no one picks up their poo. They let the dogs out. Anyway, so I got bitten a couple of times by dogs, which gave me a bit of a fear of dogs. I never really understood dogs. Never had a dog. So later on, years later on, I'm sort of 15 years old. And was going around to this, come on Bentley, going around to this house that we used to go over. There was various houses, group houses, people were generally signing on. I think I was still at school, but on the whole people were signing on and in group houses, renting group shared houses. And there was this dog which belonged to a guy called Dolby, who was about my age, maybe a year older or 2 older. Anyway, the dog just could tell that I didn't know how to cope with dogs, didn't know how to tell it to stop, and it was he used to pick on me and scrag my jumper. And I just didn't know how to tell it to stop. It was just took the piss out of me. And anyway, as fate would have it, after I left home, we moved to this shared house for a bit, and then that fell to pieces for one reason or another, and I started seeing this girl who had a friend who was friends with Dolby, who was the owner of Pavlov, although he was very he wasn't a good dog owner. He never really took care of it properly. And one night I remember we were there and he was bored, we were bored, and he says, I'm going to go out robbing garages and going to walk up to the more middle class areas of the city. We lived in Leeds, and we were going to go robbing garages, and I wasn't really up for it. And because I wasn't a criminal, not a criminal now. I wasn't a criminal then, but he was. Anyway, he said some derogatory thing about, I was going to stay in where it's nice and safe and everything. Anyway, I stayed in with my girlfriend and the dog, and he never come back. After 4 weeks, he still wasn't back. And I think we have ultimately found out that he'd been caught burglarising people's garages. And it come up that he got like an outstanding warrant for smuggling. Well, it was a pathetic charge really. He'd come through customs from Amsterdam to England with a wrap of cocaine or something, a really tiny amount, just basically forgotten he'd got it on him. And anyway, things were tighter then about drugs anyway. But he got shipped off to go on remand, and eventually went to jail briefly for that, and presumably the robbing the garages. So I ended up with a dog, and this dog that had bullied me. Anyway, I became really close with him, got to know him really well. He was a mad dog. He was a really the reason I want to talk about him is because he's the most intelligent dog I think that I've ever known. But he was quite violent. He could get in fights with other dogs really easily. But for no reason at all. And he was a medium-sized dog, the sort of size of a, I don't know, a border collie or something. You know, medium size, not a big dog, not small dogs, but he'd take on like Dobermans and stuff, and Alsatians and you know, dogs that you shouldn't really be fighting with at this size. Shouldn't be fighting at all, but anyway. But these two dogs that used to bully him on the route to my mate's house, and he'd been beaten up by them a couple of times. Anyway, another thing about Pavlov was, because he'd been not really looked after, he'd learned of a network of houses, shared houses, where he would travel from one place to another, where he'd stay for a few days, and then he'd go on somewhere else. But these places, some of them were like 5 miles apart, right across the city, one side of the city to the other. It's a fairly big city. It's I think 7th or 8th biggest city in the country, but it is the 3rd largest urban sprawl, the centre of. If you look on the map, any map, you'll see that there's a load of buildings around London, loads of big buildings around Birmingham and Wolverhampton, and then a load of buildings around Leeds and all that area. There's buildings that stop between Leeds, Bradford, Wakefield and all that. So yeah, you can argue it's the 3rd biggest city. I always think it was the 3rd biggest city in terms of like urban spread. Anyway, the point was you could go right across the city, and this is going across you know, what do they call them? You know, like ring roads with 2 lanes and other you know, right across the city, going through all these estates, different houses, different types of traffic, and you could negotiate the cars. And there's a lot of dogs that never learn to negotiate traffic, certainly city traffic, and others that do. It takes some now to sort of picture how fast the vehicle's moving. And I've had dogs since then who I wouldn't stand a chance going across the city. Like Bentley wouldn't be run over by after the first couple of roads, you know. No disrespect to him, he lives in a different kind of world to Pavlov. And Pavlov was, you know, badly brought up dog, I suppose. This one time, the time I was going to talk about, I want to talk about Pavlov more later, another time. But what he did was he ran. We used to go through a ginnel behind these houses, and then we'd cross the ring road, and then go down another ginnel and back into another estate, and then we were on our way. But Pavlov used to get attacked by these 2 Alsatians. So one time what he does is he goes, he sees the speed of he looks at the traffic lights above and sees the traffic that's coming down. Sorry about the car noise, got to pick up some dog poo, you see. Sees these cars coming down, and he judges the speed of the cars. He runs to where the Alsatians, which Alsatians were. He runs up to them and goes, rah, 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 rah. Come on then, you bastards, sort of thing. And the Alsatians, oh, bloody hell. Yeah, I just got the dog. Picking up the dog poo, yeah. The Alsatians, yeah, went, oh yeah, I can't follow you. And then he ran across it's easterly road, and it's like two lanes going one direction, 2 lanes going the other, and it's fairly fast, like 40 miles speed limit, but cars go a lot faster down there. So he runs straight across the road in front of the cars, timed it perfectly for the Alsatians who were chasing him, who weren't that clever as him, to be run over by the by the cars, which came very close to happening. The car screeched at a halt, and it timed it perfectly to kill him. And I kind of marvelled at his intelligence. It was I think some people got out of the cars and started shouting at me, and I said, well, it's got nothing to do with me. I said, there's somebody else's dogs that you've nearly run over. Anyway, that's the first bit about Pavlov. We'll go further on about him because he was probably the cleverest dog I've ever had. Yeah, that's Pavlov part 1.